Yaara had always believed that every story carried a hidden truth, waiting for the right eyes to notice it. Working as a junior journalist in a small low-budget media house, she often found herself chasing insignificant news: lost pets, minor accidents, community events. No one remembered the next day, but deep down she longed for something meaningful, something that would test her courage and prove that she was more than just another reporter with a notebook. One warm afternoon, as she was walking back from an uneventful assignment, she noticed a small crowd gathered in front of an old community center. The building looked worn down but alive with movement. Curious, Yaara moved closer and saw Mamta Sharma standing at the front, speaking to a group of worried women. Mamta was known in the city as a kind-hearted social worker, someone who fought for others even when she had little herself. But today, her usually calm expression seemed troubled, her voice slightly strained as she tried to comfort the anxious women around her. Yaara had learned to read faces, and something about the fear in those women's eyes told her that something serious was happening. She stepped closer, pretending to take notes on her phone, and listened. Words floated through the air: missing funds, threats, forced closure. An uneasy feeling gripped her. This wasn't a small problem. Something much bigger was hidden beneath the surface. After the crowd dispersed, Yaara approached Mamta gently. "Ma'am, I'm Yaara, a journalist. I couldn't help noticing. Is something wrong?" she asked. Mamta hesitated, unsure if she should trust her, but exhaustion and desperation won. She invited Yaara inside the center, where children played quietly and women sat stitching clothes for income. There, Mamta revealed the truth. Their shelter, which had helped hundreds of women over the years, was suddenly under attack. Someone wanted to take their land. Someone powerful. Anonymous threats had started coming late at night, demanding they vacate the building. And now, forged documents were showing up, claiming the land was never theirs. Yaara felt chills. This was not a coincidence, it was planned. "I want to help," Yaara said firmly. She immediately called Ajaz Ahmed, her childhood friend and now a passionate young lawyer. Then she messaged her neighbor, Manjul Khattar, a skilled digital investigator, for the first time. The four of them were about to stand together against something dark and dangerous. Yaara didn't know where this journey would lead, but she knew this was the story she had been waiting for. Ajaz Ahmed arrived at the community center early the next morning, carrying a folder filled with legal forms. His calm and serious nature brought comfort to Mamta Sharma, who finally felt she wasn't standing alone. Together, they sat across a creaking wooden table as Ajaz carefully examined the documents related to the shelter's ownership. Within minutes, his eyes narrowed. Several pages had mismatched signatures, incorrect timestamps, and even fake seals. Someone had deliberately forged legal papers to frame the shelter as a legally occupied property. "This isn't just carelessness," Ajaz said. "This is a planned attack." Meanwhile, Manjul Khattar spent the entire day on his laptop, sitting in a small corner of the community center. He dove deep into digital records, property listings, city archives, old newspaper clippings, and online databases. His fingers typed rapidly, tracing patterns others would overlook. After hours of searching, he uncovered an alarming pattern: 3 other charity organizations had been forced to shut down in the past year. Each closure was followed by a new luxury project on the same land. When Manjul connected the names, the same company kept appearing behind every acquisition, and at the top of those ownership records stood a powerful and influential businessman known for his shady deals. While Ajaz and Manjul worked, Yaara immersed herself in the lives of the women at the shelter. She spoke to a mother who had fled an abusive marriage, a girl rescued from trafficking, and several elderly women abandoned by their families. Each story carried suffering but also resilience. The thought of these people being thrown onto the streets ignited a fire inside her. She sat with Mamta, asking questions carefully. Mamta admitted that the threats had begun months earlier, anonymous calls warning her to back off. Letters slipped under the door, and men loitering outside the shelter. She had tried to stay strong, but fear had started to creep into her heart. By evening, all four gathered in Manjul's apartment. He connected his laptop to the TV and displayed the evidence he had found. The room fell silent as document after document revealed the plan. The businessman wanted the shelter's land for his upcoming high-end shopping complex. Everything: the threats, the fake papers. The pressure was part of his strategy to claim the property. This is no accident, Yaara said softly. This is a war against the helpless. But as the truth became clear, so did their determination. They weren't backing down, not now, not ever. The next few days unfolded like a storm. What had begun as a quiet investigation suddenly turned into a dangerous battle none of them had fully prepared for. The moment they started connecting the dots publicly, the people behind the corrupt scheme began to feel threatened, and they struck back hard. Yaara was the first to feel it. One night, as she walked home after interviewing a former shelter resident, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She picked up, expecting a source. Instead, a cold voice whispered, "Stop digging, or you'll regret it." Before she could speak, the call ended. A chill crawled up her spine, but she refused to be intimidated. She saved the number, documented the incident, and continued her work. Ajaz wasn't spared either. 3 men visited his small law office pretending to be potential clients, but their questions were odd, their tone hostile. One of them leaned in and said quietly, "Drop the case," lawyer sobbed. "You're young, don't ruin your career." Ajaz stared him down and replied, "Justice doesn't stop because someone tries to scare me." The men left with a smirk, but the message was clear: back off. Meanwhile, Manjul's tech world turned chaotic. His laptop began receiving hacking attempts, dozens of them trying to wipe out the evidence he had collected. Firewalls collapsed, systems froze, files vanished and reappeared. But Manjul wasn't just a casual tech guy, it was brilliant. He countered each attack, strengthened his defenses, and safely backed up all the evidence to multiple locations. Mamta faced the worst of it. She was being followed on her way to the market, the clinic, even when dropping children to school. She recognized one of the men from the crowd that had once threatened her. Fear wrapped around her like a shadow, but she continued showing up for the people who depended on her. Still, the pressure was suffocating. Realizing the threats were intensifying. The 4 gathered in Yaara's small apartment. Papers, laptops, and files covered the table. Tension hung thick in the air. "We're exposing someone powerful," Ajaz said. "He won't stop unless we bring everything out at once." Yaara nodded. "Then let's do it. No fear, no holding back." The next day, Yaara released a bold article exposing the early findings, without naming the team. Ajaz filed a strong legal complaint. Manjul dropped a short investigative video online, gathering thousands of views in hours. Their fight was no longer quiet, it was now public, and there was no going back. The city woke up buzzing. Yaara's article had sparked questions everywhere, and Manjul's video kept spreading faster than any of them expected. By the time Ajaz arrived at the courthouse to file a second petition, reporters and activists were already gathering outside. The corrupt businessman, once confident in his power, suddenly found the spotlight burning on him. But he still tried to fight back, sending lawyers, spreading false statements, and denying all accusations. Yet the truth had already begun to crack through the walls he had built for years. The court hearing became the turning point. Mamta, though anxious, walked into the courtroom with her head held high. The women from the shelter had come too, quietly filling the seats, their presence a silent testimony of what they had endured. Ajaz stood firm, presenting forged documents, timestamped suspicious land transfer attempts, and financial trails that Manjul had uncovered. On the other side, the businessman's legal team grew increasingly nervous as evidence piled up. Then came the moment everyone waited for. Yaara stepped into the witness stand, her voice steady as she explained her investigation, the threats she had received, and the interviews she had collected. Every word strengthened the case. The judge listened carefully, his face stern. When the final video evidence compiled by Manjul played on the screen, the courtroom fell silent. It exposed illegal acquisitions, shady deals, and testimonies from victims of the businessman's previous land grabs. The businessman's silence said more than his words ever could. A week later, the verdict arrived. The corrupt businessman was arrested under multiple charges: fraud, intimidation, and misuse of authority. His company faced heavy penalties, its illegal projects put on hold. But the biggest victory came when the judge announced that the shelter's land would receive permanent government protection. No one would ever be allowed to touch it again. Outside the courthouse, emotions erupted. Some women cried. Others hugged Mamta tightly. Yaara felt her eyes sting with tears, overwhelmed by the weight of what they had achieved together. Mamta placed a hand on her shoulder and whispered, "You saved us." Yaara smiled faintly. "No, we saved each other." Manjul recorded the moment as Ajaz joined them, all four standing together, tired yet victorious. They hadn't just won a case, they had restored hope, dignity, and safety for countless lives. In that day, the world finally saw what 4 ordinary people could accomplish when they refused to stay silent.